Tonight, President Uhuru Kenyatta nominated a former Kenya Power Company CEO Ben Chumo for the position of chairperson of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Chumo served as KPLC CEO until January, when his term ended and a renewal was opposed in court. If he is confirmed by the Finance Committee of the National Assembly, Chumo will assume office at a time when SRC is in a standoff with parliamentarians after the Parliamentary Service Commission went to court last year to contest salary cuts by the then SRC-led commission. Now, the president has also nominated former Meru County woman representative for the position of the Commissioner for the Administration of Justice, well known as Ombudsman. Washington Sati and Lucy Ndungu have been nominated as members of CAJ. Ndungu was, until her nomination, the acting registrar of political parties, a position she has held for over 6 years. The three will have to be vetted by the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee in the next 21 days. Evening and welcome to the program. Of course, it is Wednesday, the 27th day of June 2018. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim. On the show tonight, I shall be speaking to CEO of Eco Build Africa, Professor Alfred Omenya. I'm also going to engage Professor Duncan Ojwang from Africa Nazarene University and the founder of Young Kenya Women Leaders, that is Ruth Ambongo. But before that, before I engage them, let me now bring in our lead reporter, Sophia Wanuna, who is on standby at the Kilimani area, right here at the capital, Nairobi. Sophia, good evening. The appointments today have been received by mixed reactions, of course, by Kenyans. What more do you have for us?
Good evening, Yusuf. Yes, those nominations, mixed reactions we're getting so far, and especially on the Commission on Administration of Justice. It's been a long time, about 2 years since that office had a head, and the last head is who I'm with tonight, the Ombudsman, former Ombudsman, Otiende Amolo. He's now the Rarieda Member of Parliament. Thank you so much for making time for us. What do you make of these appointments? You have the Kajuju Florence, former woman rep Meru, as the chair, members the Ndongo, Lucy, another one as well we have seen listed there. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Sophia. First of all, once you retire as Ombudsman, the proper title is Ombudsman Emeritus. So I am Ombudsman Emeritus.
Well schooled.
Thank you. But secondly, as you've properly said it, it's been a long time. I resigned about 2 years ago, and by law, I was required to notify the president, which I did, and the president was supposed to notify that vacancy within 7 days, which was not done. And the idea in the legislation is that there should not be a vacancy in that office. So finally, this has been done, 2 years late, but it has been done. The absence of a substantive ombudsman is something that is costly to a country like Kenya. First, because the work of the ombudsman is primarily to fight maladministration and impunity, and also complement the fight against corruption. Now, we know the level of impunity we have in this country. We know the levels of corruption. So 2 years of not having a substantive holder means 2 years of not fighting those vices. Secondly, by the time I left, I was the Secretary General of the African Ombudsman Association. But having left as a substantive Secretary General, whoever was to succeed me was going to continue as Secretary General. But because of the absence of a substantive holder, I am aware that the association essentially pulled that out, with the risk also now of pulling away the Secretariat. Mm-hmm. But I think more importantly is that as a matter of fact, the government and all of us should appreciate the work of commissions and the role that they play. And therefore, prolonged absence of commissions or commissioners then essentially means that the work that that commission was created to do is a work that lapses. Mm-hmm. And so that is something that should be checked. But having said that, yes, I saw the notification. The person now nominated to succeed me is my colleague in the profession, Florence Kajuju, together with Washington Sati and Lucy Ndungu. Lucy Ndungu has been acting as the registrar of political parties for a long time. And indeed, I had given an opinion when I was ombudsman that that idea of having an acting person for too long is wrong. So it's a welcome thing that she has joined. She will join the commission if Parliament approves. Washington Sati has been a member of staff of the National Gender and Equality Commission. And as I understand, although I've not met him, I understand he's a person living with disability, but he's a very competent person. Florence Kajuju is a lawyer of long standing, served in the Law Society of Kenya and then later joined politics. And I know that there are many who may not welcome her appointment or nomination, but I do. I do because while you could be a politician, what is important is not whether you are a politician or not. What is important is that once you are appointed to an independent office, such as the office of the Ombudsman, you are required to leave that history behind. You are required to be neutral, you are required to be apolitical, and you are required to have the courage to speak truth to power, to have the courage to speak straight to the president, straight to the executive, and correct all the maladministration that might come your way.
Okay, because the concern here for such an office that's, as you say, speak truth to power, hold government to account. She campaigned for the president. She ran on a Jubilee ticket and when she was woman rep. So that can she have that capacity? Is she beholden? Is this a reward, in essence, for her, for the work she did then in this office? Can she truly be trusted or be seen as a person who can carry out her mandate or the mandate of this office without political lineages?
I think the question is not whether she can. The question is whether she will. Certainly she can. And we have seen many people who have even been politicians before and who once appointed to certain offices then have been fiercely independent and have carried out their work as per the law, as per the law requires. I think the challenge for my friend Kajuju will be that she will have to leave all the political baggage behind. She will have to forget that she was ever in Jubilee. She will have to forget that she ever campaigned for the president. And she will have to do the role and the work that is bestowed upon her, not by the president, but by Kenyans. Because the Constitution says that the authority, the ultimate authority, rests on the citizens because they are sovereign under Article 1. If she were to fail to do that, then that would be very sad. Yeah. But I believe that she's capable of doing that because that's what she must do. But while on that, I think the more fundamental question that people should be addressing is, what is the process of selection? In these commissions that have had vacancies lately, there were selection panels that were constituted.
Right.
I think the unfortunate thing is that those selection panels were not openly constituted. In our time, when I was appointed, the law was very clear and the process was very clear from the advertisement to who would be in the selection panel,
right.
And the firms that were involved. I have seen that in this time, you'd see only a gazette notice indicating the people who are in those selection panels and not how they were appointed. But that aside, and that ought to be looked at, I have confidence that those who have been nominated to come to CAJ are competent people.
Yeah. Finally, in a time where the country is fighting corruption, or at least that's what we keep hearing from the leaders, from the president, the office of the ombudsman, what's the significance and what's the import in as far as, fine, you can call this out, but what can that office do about it?
The world over, the work of the ombudsman is to point out what is going wrong in government. And in fact, in technical terms, it is called moral suasion. It is to indicate what is wrong, and every government that cares about governance will always implement the recommendation of the ombudsman. If you are in a government that does not take recommendations of the ombudsman seriously, then that government is not serious about governance. In this country, you need the office of the ombudsman very fundamentally. Because while sometimes we complain of things like corruption and theft, there are other things which may not amount to criminal corruption, but they amount to impropriety. Now, that is called maladministration, and that's what the ombudsman does. The work of the ombudsman is to make sure that every government official, from the president down to the sweeper in any office, do their work, serve the citizens as they ought to, as by law provided. And where they fail, then there must be measures taken against them, whether it's prosecution, whether it's removal from office, or whether it's caution. And you will realize that most countries of the world that work well, where governance matters, have an ombudsman, and the ombudsman is a properly respected office. I hope, and as the first ombudsman, we endeavored to put the foundation for that in this country. I did that for 5 years. There's been a lapse of 2 years. But with the coming of this new team, I believe that they'll be able to build on it, because collectively, that is what then will reduce impunity, reduce corruption, and make this government a working government.
All right. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Otende Amolo, former ombudsman, he told me the term to use. What was that?
Ombudsman emeritus.
Ombudsman Emeritus, Yusuf. So that's how to refer to one once they've left office. So for these nominees, of course, waiting them ahead is that vetting in Parliament. If in fact they go through, then they will be occupying those offices. And for the office of the Ombudsman, we've heard a little bit about what is expected and, of course, the challenges around the same. And will this nominee, if approved, rise up to the occasion? It's a matter of wait and see. Yusuf.
Thank you very much, Sophia, for that. And now let's contextualize this development for our viewers here and put the faces to the names that the President mentioned today. And here now is a quick look at the names of the nominees today. We're going to get those infographics shortly for you. And of course, they're composed of about 4 or 5 individuals, among them the former CEO of the Kenya Power and Lightning Company, that is Mr. Ben Chumo. A lot of people have received that appointment with mixed reactions. We're going to discuss if he really deserves that position and perhaps what is at stake for this individual. Even is about to take this unpopular position. And there you go, you have him. And then there's Florence Kujuju, the former woman representative from Meru. She's also a lawyer. She now takes up the position of the Commission on Administrative Justice as the chair. And then there's the Washington Sati, who's now a CAJ member. Of course, he's been nominated for that position. And then another interesting name, Lucy Ndungu, who has served as the acting registrar of political parties for about 6 years on an acting capacity. Now she has been nominated as a member of the CAJ. Now in studio, I have 3 individuals. I have Professor Alfred Omenya. I also have Professor Duncan Ojwang, as well as Ruth Abongo. Ruth is the founder of Young Kenyan Women Leaders. Professor Duncan Ojwang is the lecturer from Nazarene University. Professor Alfred is the CEO, EcoBuild Africa. Good evening, gentlemen and lady. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Professor Alfred, let me begin with you. Before we talk about, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, once again, it's a very unpopular position, especially in the light of, parliamentarians who always seek to increase their, wages and everything. Let's begin with this office, the Office of the Ombudsman, that is the Commission on Administrative Justice. Now, the person who's been nominated to be at the helm of this office is an ex-woman representative of Meru. She's a member of Jubilee Party. Of course, she is a lawyer, but she's still a politician. How confident are you that she's going to deliver in this docket?
From where I sit, I don't really see Florence Kajuju delivering at all. I think on this one, I may take a slightly different position from what Dr. Tiende Amolo, now Rarieda MP, took. I think when it comes to some of these positions, it is not just about the technical competence. This is a very important commission that oversights government, that ensures that Kenyans with complaints about the Uhuru administration in terms of the processes, in terms of fairness, in terms of injustices, and in terms of corruption and so on, are listened to. And the issues are taken on board. When you get your chief campaigner and a member of your party to play that role, I really think that Otiende was not being honest there. It is not really just about the technical competence. and the ability to do the job. In this particular instance, I think it will be important also that that position is seen, the individual is seen to be autonomous enough in their day-to-day engagement, in their past, to the extent that we can trust that they can, get government to streamline its operations, and administrative justice is then done to all Kenyans. I don't think Honorable Kajuju will deliver.
I'd like to hear Ruth's point of view on this. Ruth, I understand, of course, your organization is all about youth and women in leadership. What do you have to say about this new appointment?
I think it is an interesting choice because, first of all, we know that Honorable Florence Kajuju was once an LSK chair. She was once the LSK chair leader. So, and for me, in terms of competence, I think she fits the bill. Since these two organizations, both the Ombudsman office and the LSK chair, the LSK office are institutions that have been very keen in terms of promoting the rule of law. So if indeed she led during her term, I'm not able to understand, I'm not in a position to know how well she led the LSK as an organization when she was the chair back then. But then if indeed she led the LSK as an organization which is keen on promoting the rule of law and constitutionalism, and that is one of the mandates of the Ombudsman office, then I think she fits the bill. But then again, the question of impartiality comes in. Is she able to maintain impartiality during in the delivery of her duties? Because we understand that the Ombudsman office is generally, it's a general overseer of what government does, the actions of government. It basically checks on functions of the government, whether there has been maladministration or whether there has been injustice that is committed within government offices or by public officials. So therein comes the question of, will she be able to maintain impartiality, seeing that the person who has employed her is her former boss, and how are you going to check your former boss?
Ruth, don't you think she's been rewarded here because she's one of the chief campaigners and they just concluded elections?
It is a political reward. I generally, it's clear there that it is a political reward, and one would want to look at it from the 2022 perspective. Could it be one of those ways of making sure that your people on the ground are properly taken care of for the sake of 2022? So I think that's a question that we should also ask ourselves. But generally, I think that yes, it is a political reward. She has been given a political reward because of the good work that she did after losing. And we've seen a lot. We saw the first list of nominees had the same issue of many of them appearing to be political appointees. The political rewards to persons that had lost the elections. Yes.
I'm going to ask you your point of view with regards to gender parity there, but I'm going to come to back to you shortly. But let me hear Professor Duncan Ojwang's point of view. Do you agree with Ruth and Professor Alfred, or do you have a different point of view altogether?
Yeah, good evening. I'm mostly Dr. Duncan Ojwang. I'm not a professor yet. And,
thanks for the correction.
No, my instinct tells me that she can deliver. I have a concern on how the process, more than the person of Kajuju, because I know her and I think she's competent. The act that requires the nomination requires that the names are shortlisted, the interview is conducted within a week. So this was the act that Parliament gave gave whoever was to select this person, that within a week you have shortlisted all the candidates. In this case, there were about 200 of them. So shortlist them within a week, interview them within a week, and so it's a task that is impossible. So you wonder whether they really had time to peruse the application, or maybe just possibly just went with the familiar names. So I think my instinct tells me that she's a decent person. She can do it. Part of the ombudsman job is not really, we have to differentiate it from being an opposition leader, because ombudsman, most of their work are actually done quietly. You have, the government must trust you. That does not mean that you are compromisable. You must understand the government. You must be able to talk to them not in media necessarily, but to influence their policy, so that they are able to trust you and even come to you when they feel they are conflicted, when they feel they are confused. And so that working chemistry might not necessarily be a bad thing.
Yes.
That collegiality and that respect might not be necessarily a bad thing, because if now she goes to this ministry, for them to open up and to work with her and to say, we need help in this, and how can you help us?
Yes.
That is more effective with somebody probably who is respected and who can reach across the aisle than somebody who is so much adversarial. It's not a litigation, it's not an adversarial process. Their report, basically there's no even mechanism of enforcement of that report. So the personality and the friendship and the goosebumps and the goodwill between the commissioners and those government agencies is the currency that carries their report. So
yes.
In that sense, I think that familiarity or respect and collegiality might not necessarily mean compromise, might not necessarily mean that this person is not able to work.
Professor Alfred, let me engage Professor Alfred for now. And you've heard there Dr. Juang's point of view. He's decided to rely on his instincts. Perhaps these are names that are going to be vetted by the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. Do you think they're going to do the right job there, rather than acting like a rubber stamp for these names? And how important is it to have the head of ombudsman to be some sort of a neutral person?
Yeah, I think public administration is very important, and on this one I take a slightly different angle from what Dr. Juang is suggesting. The ombudsman is not there to make the government happy. The ombudsman is actually there for the public. It is the general public, is ourselves, who get services every day. Is a Kenyan who goes to various offices and gets frustrated there. It is Kenyans who are forced to pay bribes on a daily basis in government, in various government departments. We complain to the ombudsman because we know that if you complain to the person offering the services, you will not be listened to. So the ombudsman really is not there to be cozy with government, as it were. The ombudsman is there to listen to the public and to the public complaints. And what one is actually looking at here is fairness in process. In Kenya, public offices have not been fair for very many years, including now even some of the processes that we're talking about here of appointments and so on. They're not transparent, they're not rigorous enough, and we ask questions. We don't want somebody who will be cozy with government. We want somebody who can actually look government in the eye and say this was wrong, and be able to take measures, including adversarial measures, including stopping some of those unjust practices that government does, including working with various commissions that have been given power to oversight government.
Your view on the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, do you think they're going to do their homework well?
I think they will, but on the other hand, they'll just have to look at the candidates that they've been given. So in a way, their decision is already made, and they'll generally be looking at the competence of this person, as it were. I don't know the extent to which they will be able to determine the independence of these individuals. But having said that, I must also say that Otienda Mola and his group in Parliament have just been rubber stamping government appointments. In fact, I've not seen any situation where underwhelming government appointments have failed in Parliament. We have a rubber stamp Parliament, and now with the handshake, the rubber stamp has even become bigger. They're most likely going to rubber stamp the appointment, regardless of what some of them think in private.
Now, Ruth, as someone who champions for gender equality, are you satisfied this time round?
I think for us, if we focus mainly on the fact that Florence Kajuju is a female, I mean, she's a lady and she has been appointed, this means for us that she's going to be the first ombudsman, the first female ombudsman in Kenya. That is a big win for women in Kenya, and it basically goes a long way to show that, you know, women can actually lead serious organizations like the ombudsman. So for me and for the female community, and you know, there has been a big discussion about gender equality in most of these appointments, that whether the gender ratios have been met, whether 30% is being met, the 30% gender ratios requirement of gender equality is being met in most of these appointments. So for the female community, I think this is a big win for us, regardless of other things put aside, all other factors constant. I think for the women, this is a big win for us, and it's going a long way to show that, you know, women can actually hold such reputable institutions, because as Prof has said, this is an institution that is serving the common mwananchi. This is that institution that you go to when you have a complaint about inefficiency of a public office, when you have a complaint about injustice within a public office, then this is the place to go to. So this for women is a big win for us.
And of course, another position which is very unpopular among parliamentarians, especially the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. We're going to talk about that, even as the president nominated Ben Chumo for appointment as SRC chair, the ex-KPLC CEO. We're going to talk about that and much more after this very short break. Stay with us.